I looked at dozens of houses and made at least half a dozen bids and got outbid over and over again. And this was just me trying to get into real estate in 2022. Hey guys, it's Kerry. And last week we talked about my struggles in Boston, as well as me needing to learn how to budget out there and how I ended up just making a move to come back to Dallas. When I came back to Dallas, I moved in with my parents and really just began saving up money for a down payment. This week, we're really going to talk about how I got into real estate and that journey, because it took me 3 months to get my offer accepted after first looking, and that experience of moving in and just learning what it's like to be a homeowner and just all of the things that I've learned and all of the gotchas that came out of it. To get into that journey, we're going to first start with just the bidding process, right? So it was interesting because I worked with a realtor, first of all, because I have no idea what I'm doing in that field, right? I am a software engineer by trade, no idea what I'm doing in real estate. So I worked with a family friend who's a trusted real estate agent in my family. And then also she is also a property manager. She does a lot of things, but these are just the two that are relevant right now. And when it came to that process, I just kind of told her what I wanted. So I was like, I want to have a place with an office because I work from home. I want to have a place that's not too far from Dallas because it's the area that I really am familiar with and okay living in. And then I just want a place that's in the suburbs because that's just kind of where I'm comfortable living at. When it came to these restrictions, it was just a little bit tricky, but I really think it's also the market at the time because it's 2022. And it was just seeing me going out. And like I said earlier, I looked at really just like at least 40 houses. And out of those 40 houses, by the time I was ready for the bidding offer or really looked at the price to see if it made sense, got to make about 6 offers before those houses were already pulled off the market because homes were just selling so fast. So when it came to that, we ended up needing to just learn about the process, because one of the things I didn't know about is when a house is off the market, it doesn't just immediately go off the market. It is a such thing as putting into contract. When it's put into contract, that typically means that you have your earnest money, and earnest money is what you basically put as, I'm gonna call it a deposit, but it really goes to the title company, which is a neutral third party between you and the seller. And this was just happening way faster, and it's something I learned I need to actually have money ready to go to be able to put into that earnest money to get these houses into contract. But you only go into contract after the offer has been accepted. And honestly, we were just getting outbid over and over and over again. And it was just interesting because this type of environment, for me being a first-time home buyer, was not really the most encouraging. But it was also nice to at least have an agent by my side that's been in this field for 20 plus years. And she just reassured me saying like, look, this in 2022 is just one of the most unprecedented times that I've seen in a while, because we've been through the 2008 financial crisis where you couldn't sell a house for nothing, but houses right before that were selling like hotcakes. This here is just a very rough environment. It's not normal. And that just made me feel a little bit better. And one of the things I will also stress about is like, especially if you're new to a field, I just think even if you kind of know what you're doing, just always get a real estate agent to do these things with you. And it was just very interesting trying to get through that moment. But eventually we did get to that home that I got to put in an offer, and the offer was actually accepted, and I did get it into contract. And that was really after 3 months or so of looking around, but we did get it into contract. Interestingly enough, even though I went straight into the house hunt part of this, the other thing that I kind of forgot to mention was just getting you guys up to speed on just the process of even getting that down payment saved up. Like, I'm pretty sure you could probably still put 2 and 2 together, but I still want to reiterate here that I was able to do this because once again, I'm saving $2,300 a month that I used to be paying towards rent. Moved back in with my parents, and during that time, I was able to save $2,300. I had also some investments that I made in the stock market back then. I didn't sell all of them, so I was able to use some of that as well. And then I also had a bonus from my company. At that time, we had quarterly bonuses that were 2.5% of our salary or so. So that really also helped to be able to save up to have that down payment ready. So the thing I'll say for that is that I had 18,000 saved up and ready to go as that down payment, just to give you guys a little bit of a better picture here, because I didn't want you to just be like, oh, where did he just get this money from? He just moved back to Dallas. But just to keep you guys with a clear picture, that is essentially how I got that down payment saved up and what I did to kind of move myself ahead when I got back to Dallas and really was thinking about getting into the first property, honestly. Now back to the original story. So we finally find that home, and the home that we got is like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It has that office as well. And it was 20 minutes or so from downtown Dallas. And it was actually in a suburb that I was familiar with because I passed through here here all the time and go to different places. And I know a couple people in this suburb as well. The interesting thing for me is that we ended up looking at this house. It was listed for $340. So we went ahead and made that offer at $340 because that was honestly at the top of my budget. But according to what I was working with my lender and working with my real estate agent, that was something that we could do. And when it came to making that offer, so obviously I had to put up the earnest money as we discussed before, and the house went into contract. So during this time is when you want to be able to have all of the other things to make sure that you are, your seller is going to make sure to have the house in order for you whenever it is sold. So one of the things, and I'm going to stress this really, really hard, is to make sure that you get your house inspected. The reason that is because you just never know what could go wrong with the home. And it could be some things that are safety related that you would rather have the seller fix before giving the home to you. Because once the home is sold, there's no, hey, this was broken that you didn't let me know, let me be aware of, anything like that. Like, it's dead and done. So I will say once again, get your home inspected. So as the results of this inspection, one of the things that actually did happen is the house that we made an offer on is 20 years old at that given time. And the thing was that they needed a new roof on the house, which is the reason that that house sat on the market for so long. My agent actually ended up negotiating with them to be like, no, we need a new roof because otherwise we're not even going to be able to get this house like financed or anything like that with this type of issue going on. So she was able to negotiate the new roof. And then the other thing is the appraisal came back from the lender. So the appraisal is what the bank thinks the home is worth and the maximum amount of money that they're willing to lend for that home. So when the appraisal came back at $330,000 for the home. So we went again, and my agent helped me there again to be like, look, the house only appraised for $330,000. So we're going to need you to lower the asking price so that we can get this house fully financed. Otherwise, my client is not going to be able to afford to have this home. So lo and behold, they came back and once again lowered the house for $330,000, and I got a new roof. So in my head, this was like, oh, finally a deal, because she told me, a roof is probably worth about $10,000 in cost. So in my head, wow, the house is really $320,000 because I got a new roof, and that'll be good for the insurance. I know you have to have insurance with the home, and they like having new roofs because I remember my parents always claiming, like, not always claiming, but if there was hail damage that, they would claim it, but the rates would go up because that's one of the common things that kind of happens in Texas. And it was just nice to have that new roof because I knew it was going to help me out in the long run. And this is kind of my first process and really just first time just getting into the property. And that housing process was finally all done, and I was there finally signing the papers. And this time it was still during COVID, so I didn't sign it at no office or anything. I actually signed it at home. But it was just a great experience to be able to finally get a property, get the contract, and actually get it signed. And it was nice to actually kind of see that sellers really do want to get these homes out of their hands because they actually spent an extra $10,000 to get the new roof done. They lowered the asking price. And to me, that's like $20,000 worth of expenses. In my head, that's a lot. But when it comes to really the grand scheme of things, they're trying to get the house sold, and they probably also took out a loan. So they're not really going to miss out on these small differences in money between here and there versus just getting a home sold. So it made me realize I had more leverage than I thought, even in the seller driven market. And it was interesting because of that. Bought the home at $330,000. Remember I told you earlier that I paid $18,000 to just get the house to close. Of that $18,000, the loan amount only reduced from $330,000 to $320,100. So only $9,900 of that $18,000 went towards the actual loan itself. The rest of that is closing costs. And now that I'm thinking about it right now, I'm like, wow, closing costs are expensive. So doing things like refinancing, I have to really think twice about because those things are not cheap. So it was interesting, but this was really my first step into just buying the property and what it was like going through the numbers to really have that property be moved over to my name. One more thing I forgot to add as well is people are probably interested as well. It's like, you obviously got the loan on the house. So how much are you paying in interest? And technically, what did you put down? I think I put down about somewhere between 3 to 5% range. And you guys can probably do the math, or I can do the math and put it on the screen to show you the actual percentage going from $330,000 down to $320,100. So you can see the actual percentage down that I had to put into the home. On top of that, the actual mortgage rate was 0.375%. I know a lot of you are looking at me like that is kind of high because my parents or some people I know are sitting at like 3 to 4% on their mortgages. But you know, it's 2022 at the time. I wanted to get into my first home. So the rates were really climbing at the time. I didn't necessarily get the best opportunity, but I still think it's always better to at least have the asset and eventually be able to refinance over time. And to explain that, refinance is basically when you close on a home again to get a better interest rate. And you can do a lot of different things with that I won't necessarily get into now. But it's just going to show that I'm not stuck with this interest rate forever. So in my head, it was like, I'll be able to refinance this at some point to get a lower rate. And then the other thing that I'll say as well is that once again, it was 18K down. So just keep that in mind on some of the numbers for myself on just what I had going into this first property. Now more on over into the cool experience or the cool part of having the home, right? It was the first time I had something that's mine. I can go put a TV on the wall. Yes, you can do it in an apartment, but I don't have to worry about, you know, putting holes in the wall for putting up a TV. I don't have to worry about being quiet in my home or just, I have a dog. So being able to put him in the backyard like I did when we was living at my parents' house is nice, and just be able to walk him through the neighborhood and different things like that. And it was just nice to just have a place to call my own. Like I could go and like change the fence if I want to. I can shape the trees any way I want. And it was just nice to have that freedom. But on the flip side of that, there's always a cost to that freedom, right? For one of the things that I just really didn't think about too much was like that the mortgage was the least of my worries. And the reason I say that is because when it comes to finances, mortgage is the minimum that you'll have to pay to keep that home wherever you're living at, right? Because the mortgage is one thing that you know is going to be the same, but you still have the utilities, which are going to be more expensive because you have a bigger space for the water, electric, and if you have gas and whatever other utilities that you have. But moreover on that, I'm also a first-time home buyer. So really just to get into it, I had a lot of first-time expenses. I am not in an apartment anymore. So I need a washer, I need a dryer, I need a fridge. And then when I actually got the home inspected, I'm gonna just kind of pop up some more things that came up off the inspection to not necessarily overwhelm you all at once. But one of the things that he noticed right away was, one, the dishwasher didn't have a top rack and the bottom rack was already like decaying. The dishwasher did not drain properly every single time either. So I went ahead and had to get the dishwasher too. And then there were other little things that I had to do that were one-time expenses. But before I get on to those big ticket items probably cost me around $6,000 altogether, just because I splurged a little bit on the fridge. Spent like $4,000 or so on the fridge. But the washer and dryer is something that I really did want to last a while, and those together cost me about, I think, $1,200 to $1,800. I don't remember the math exactly or the price exactly because it was, you know, 3-4 years ago. But the one thing I did do was make sure that, actually, not even me, my mom put me onto this one. Is she said, we're gonna go to Nebraska Furniture Mart and go to the clearance section and buy used appliances for the washer and dryer, and just make sure that they have the warranty, because Nebraska Furniture Mart will warranty your appliances for at least a year or two. So we went over there and I found the Samsung washer and dryer pair, and I even got the Samsung one that had a top load and a bottom load wash. So a top load for like the mini smaller stuff that you can have, and then a bottom load that you can run independently. And I got the nice little dryer, and nobody will know that these things are used, not that I care that it's used or not. And I had the warranty, and I was able to save so much, because if I would have just bought those outright, I'm pretty sure those themselves probably would have been like $2 or $3 grand a piece each. So that really saved me a lot. I didn't necessarily do that on the fridge, because fridges are kind of prone, at least from what I was told at that time. You know, you want to invest in a fridge because the fridge will kind of break down over time with the ice maker, the water pitcher, and just the compressor going out in the fridge. So I went ahead and bought that new and just bit the bullet. But when it comes to that, all of those things, went ahead and, I always say to avoid this, but I saw that they had a promotion going on to have 0% financing for all of those things. So I went ahead in Nebraska Furniture Mart, got a store card, got 0% financing for I think a year or so, and just made sure I was diligent to make those payments on time to pay that stuff off. And I was able to really reduce the amount that I had to take on, because remember, I also bought a new home at the time to spend a lot of cash. So this was a way for me to spread out the payments back for those 3 items over time. And then the fridge was separate. I went to Conn's and got the same thing, right? And I paid all these back over time and paid no interest, and it just was really a big deal for me, because it really allowed me to have good lasting things, but also not have to come out of pocket so much at that given time. As far as the other miscellaneous things, we had to add on, like, none of the ceiling fans worked or they made really loud noises, so I replaced those. I went ahead and replaced the toilets because my agent said just to go ahead and replace them because you don't know what's been going on there. Same with the garbage disposal. And I just went ahead for my sake because I just don't really see the point of having light bulbs that can go out all the time, and then they're, fluorescent light bulbs or whatever they're called, are the ones that are not LEDs, essentially, use a little bit more electricity. So I was like, let me go ahead and replace all of these to be LEDs. That way, whenever my renter comes in here, I don't have to worry about them calling my property agent to be like, look, the light bulb went out, I need you to fix it. Nope, all of these are LEDs. Went ahead, went to Home Depot, and just was constantly just in and out of Home Depot. Ceiling fans, the lights, the toilet. I didn't replace the sink just yet, but there were just little things I needed for the house all over again. And then I had a fireplace, so I had to get a little thing to get some wood, hold the wood over there by the fireplace and get the little tools, and even have to get some lawn tools because my real estate agent actually got me a lawnmower because she knows that my dad I used to cut the grass at my parents' house in the suburbs, so I went and cut the grass there too, at my place too, because it's why I pay $40, $50 a month when I don't have to. So I had to end up buying lawn tools for like a weed whacker, an edger, batteries, because I wanted all of my stuff to be electric, because sometimes with gas motors with the lawnmower kind of like go out over time, and you got to keep the oil and then you got to go get gas and all of that stuff. It was just interesting, all of the little things that I had to do soon as I moved in just to make it livable for me. And these expenses, something I kind of budgeted for, but it was just like a lot, because this is not only me moving to a new place, but me being a homeowner for the first time and realizing all the things that homeowners have to keep for themselves that they kind of just have to be able to use and not have to buy it for the first time. So that was just like really my experience. It felt like I just had a lot of little things to grab. To grab from the store, constantly in and out of Home Depot. It just had a lot of things that I had to keep up with now that I'm a homeowner, which it's cool to be able to come out and grab and different things like that, and I enjoyed it. It just felt like it was a lot of stuff though. The other thing I'll add to that too is there were other things that I just wanted to do to make the house look better, because my dad always had good looking grass at his house, or even if it wasn't necessarily looking great at the time, he always made sure to go out his way to have a plan to get it back in shape. And for me, it was the same thing. And that's when I realized that I needed to go ahead and get the sprinkler system in place. And the home inspector also told me about that one, because they cut the sprinkler head, not the sprinkler head, but the sprinkler controller in the garage. They just cut it out for some reason. And I did have existing sprinkler system, which was great, but because the sprinkler controller was broken, there was no way to test it. And there was one thing that I just had to kind of do right away too. Not only that, I wanted to get the grass back to where it was supposed to be and just have it be lush green and not have a bunch of weeds everywhere, and just trying to get that back into shape. And then the home inspector also told me that they had an AC unit that is as old as the house. Mind you, the house is 20 years old, so a long time to have an HVAC unit. Their lives are typically 12 years or so. Most warranties are like for 10, so I'm assuming it's around like 12 years of life or so. Because of that, these were some of the things that I just kind of wanted to fix over time. And it was one of the things I had to learn. I'm not gonna be able to grab everything at the same time. And when it comes to a home project, I realized I even talked to my parents, like they have things that they want to do, and they've been in their house for over a decade. And it's just one of those things that you just kind of get to it as you can. And you're just always gonna be like almost a never ending list, which is not a bad thing, but it's always little small improvements that you want to make to your house here and there, not only for maintenance, but just to keep it up to, your standards and make you comfortable living there. Now, one thing I wanted to keep in mind though, while I was moving in here and just getting settled into the new home and realizing how it is to be a homeowner, is that I didn't want to necessarily go too far into trying to make this like super duper into my home. So I didn't really care about interior decorations or anything like that. I just wanted the home to really be functional and be comfortable for me to live in, with being able to have all of the things that I would use on a daily. And the other thing that I kept in mind is like, I bought this home less to just say I want to live in a home, but one, as an investment, because I'm getting equity in the home. And for those of you who don't know, equity, not necessarily unique to real estate, but most of the time people say equity, they're talking about real estate. And equity is just essentially the amount of cash you would be able to walk away with if you sold the home. And the way that you are able to calculate this equity that you have in a home is, we can calculate it based off of just how much I started with that down payment, right? paid $330,000 for the home. I only owe $320,100. Now we're going to exclude the closing costs that come with selling homes. Excluding the closing costs, if I were to sell that home today and I got the same amount in the market and the home is still worth $330,000, then I would have $9,900 in equity on that home. Now, obviously over time, home values do go up, and let's say it's at $340,000, you would add $10,000 to that, so it'd be $19,900 in equity. So when we say equity, that's just how much money that you have in a home. And to take it a step further, typically a lot of people don't always necessarily sell their homes. They can use their equity to actually be able to borrow money from their home. So let's say in Texas, you have a strict rule of 20%. You have to have at least 20% equity in your home to be able to borrow any money from it. So because of that, let's say excluding that rule, but normally in Texas, you're not able to borrow more than 80% of your home's value. But excluding that, it just means that some people would actually take out a loan against their home, well, actually refinance the home to have a bigger loan, but take cash out. So it's called a cash out refinance. Let's say that I owe $330,000 again, or I owe the $320,000, or really $310,000 because I've been paying, the mortgage over time, and I want to borrow some money from the home, so I can basically refinance my loan to say I want to take another mortgage out for $320,000, and then be able to basically pay off that first loan. And when you pay off that first loan, I only owed $310,000 on the first loan, and then I got the loan for $320,000, so I'd be able to take $10,000 out in cash and basically start over again owing $320,000. So that's the cash out part of the loan. And that's just one thing that you can do in real estate. There's a whole, I would say a good amount of options to be able to leverage your equity in a home. But that's just one example. So I'm looking at this home really as an opportunity in the future, not only for just accessing the equity, but also as a rental home, because I knew I didn't want to stay here forever, but I just wanted to make sure that I could live here long enough to satisfy the requirements. Because for me, not even for me, just in Texas in general, or just other places, I don't know about many other states, but I know in Texas in general, for most part, they want you to have 20% down if you want to have just a straight up rental property, in a traditional sense of just getting a loan from a bank, a mortgage from a bank for that rental property. And I didn't have that. But when you are having it as your primary residence, meaning you're going to live there and move in and then be there for a certain amount of time, you're able to actually pay smaller percentage. I think for me, it was anywhere between 3 and 5% that I had to put down. And that allowed me to move into the home, but that doesn't stop me from moving out and renting it out later. I just knew I'm okay with being able to move to that property, which is why I had a little bit of different expectations on it, rather than just making it a place that I can buy at this price, have the mortgage be here, and then rent it higher. So that was really the thing that I was just focusing on when it came to this. And I just wanted to make sure that I stayed focused on that and honestly just get the house ready to be rented. So that's really the next thing I focused on, was getting the house ready to rent. But there were so many things that I did with upgrades to the house to get it ready to rent. I really think that could be its own episode, because it's just a lot of things I did and a lot of things I actually learned as well, because not all upgrades are good upgrades. And I really want to dive into this with you guys next week. And I think this is a really good segue to get into it. But as usual, thanks for watching, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing y'all next week. And I'm just curious, what do you think about how I went about me getting my home in 2022? What was your experience in 2022? Or for those who haven't even or bought a home any other time, I want to hear your experience. Or even for those who are just looking into it, or even those who say I'd rather rent forever. I just want to hear your feedback and just your thoughts about these type of things. And definitely looking forward to speaking to y'all next week. And as usual, I'll see you next time. This is Makin's Financial Journey YouTube channel. Peace out.